Welcome to The Aggregate, narrative codings from around the globe. It's a show that salutes the close-knit community of architects, designers, builders, and artists from our world who refuse to ration their plaster passion. Amidst a world of click-and-stick emotions, the show celebrates the spoken word and forces us to listen, process, and grow. With an open and limber mind, these subtle connective moments will provide respite to recharge with an emphasis on shared techniques and knowledge, while simultaneously fueling our fires for continued creativity on and off the job site. So take a deep breath as New Age Artisans continues to coat the planet and change the paradigm of what it means to educate, empower, and create. Greetings, I'm your host Jeremy Mastretta, along with my man on the boards, Vincent Ryan, and welcome to the show. Hey folks, welcome back. Episode 15. How's everybody doing this week? It's been a nice few days here at New Age Artisans. Chugging along on some big, large-scale projects in Big Sky, Montana. Morale's high on the team, which is, as the boss, it's pretty awesome. Manufacturing front, we've got orders flying out the door, and blends are just getting made beautifully, and everyone's really happy. And shop space remodel is so close. Tiles in, it's installed, it's grouted. Base and case are getting finished up today, and painting of the trim will start. And going to let that paint cure for the weekend, and then we'll hammer out the plaster next week. Really excited about that, and shooting to be 100% operational by the end of the month, 1st of March. Fingers crossed. Timeline's working. Just a couple more sessions here in this awesome booth that we're in. Big thanks to Bomb Snow here for lending us their booth. This is amazing. But we're here today to talk to our amazing guest, Mr. Andres Riedel from Berlin, Germany. How did I do, Andres, with the pronunciation of your name?
Hey, I'm really well. Thanks for asking, and glad to be here on the show.
Oh, so happy to have you. Everyone, I'd like you to open up your social media app right now. And if you're not already acquainted with Bauwerk Color, Bauwerk Color, which is Andreas's company, I suggest you click the follow button immediately. As I mentioned before in some past episodes, I've had the good fortune to travel to Europe a few times over the past year, and I've met a lot of really awesome people, and they've been catalysts for kind of this creative portal that New Age Artisans is entering. And one of the people is a gentleman who I really look up to. His name is Ilke from the Netherlands, and he lives in London. And he runs a very high-end company called Solid Floor. And when I first met him, he was very complimentary of our marketing and branding and quality of our work, and he pushed me to investigate Bauwerk Color, another company that he widely appreciated. And I must admit, I was super taken by their imagery, the ease and the function of the site, and the overall just essence that was conveyed to the customer journey. And started these podcasts, and I just kind of shot for the stars. I thought, what do I have to lose? What are they going to say? No, that's the worst. So I just messaged Bauwerk, and my disbelief, Andreas emailed back. He's thrilled to be a guest. So away we go. Andres, you have not had overnight success, and as we were talking earlier, you are about 20 years my senior, sir, and at 44 years of age, I've learned that bright stars burn quite fast in our world. So I want to start from the beginning and kind of create an arc of your success, because I do think you are very successful from my perspective. Where did you grow up originally?
Well, I grew up and had my education in Dresden, Germany, the former eastern part of Germany, when it was still under Russian occupation in the communist part of Germany.
Wow. And what sort of academic training did you have? Did you go to a college?
Actually, that was one good thing. Education in East Germany was very thorough, very comprehensive, and I was lucky enough to have really good teachers. And I went to what they call the Polytechnical College that included a lot of things that had been my interest anyway, but also something that I always found useful in throughout all my life. So apart from the ordinary classes teaching German and maths, we had really good stuff happening in physics and chemistry, in technical drawings, electronics, mechanics, and so on. So that was serving all my interests. And from there, I went on to become a trained cabinet maker. That in part was my love for timber and shaping timber, which I also had the opportunity in the college to do. And I completed that. And then I went on to do work for the state art galleries in Saxony, my home state within Germany. And that was really quite amazing because that put me in touch with a lot of buildings that were of significance and a great deal of artistic stuff. Even though Dresden had been heavily bombed during the Second World War, the collections were still there. The buildings were in a state of being rebuilt or at least being useful again. And because the collections were so vast, they were in many different buildings throughout the Dresden center as well as outlying areas. So I had a good fortune to work with a lot of people who still had old skills, be it blacksmithing or painting as a decorative way of painting. The galleries had to be maintained and exhibitions were done. And so that it was super interesting. And that's where my knowledge for building conservation and restoration was founded in.
Wow.
And later on, I did around about 1984 to 87, so quite early, a course in building ecology studies. That was just the beginning of formal courses for such subjects where you look at healthy materials being used, what is the effect on humans and the environment of using certain things. And so that's kind of the formative educational years that were structured and formalized for me.
Yeah. Is the educational system in Europe, I mean, here in the States, I mean, the traditional path, and it's getting less and less traditional as time evolves, but there's, somebody would go to primary school, secondary school, high school, and then if they were going to go to college would traditionally be a 4-year program. Is that how it was in Germany too?
No. In East Germany, we went basically through the same school all the years. They didn't make that distinction. Of course, the courses were tailored to the age group, naturally. But Germany, and that goes for East as well as West, has a so-called dual system. As you get older, and certainly from grade 5 onward, school children are being assigned to companies, either in their school holidays, but also as part of their normal education. And certainly for me, it was going to different companies and producing things in the company. That gave us a good insight into what it would mean to work, in factories, but also how factories are organized.
Yeah.
And that still helps me today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know of a system here in the States that would do something like that. I feel like it would be deemed, in quotations, not fair to have a student making something and then being sold. Everybody's really worried about what's fair here now in the United States, which is a whole different conversation we can talk about when I meet you in person. But I love that idea. I think that is just absolutely amazing that you can integrate yourself into the business as a student and be able to see how it actually works. That's a big problem here with scholastics and academics. I think there's just no real world experience for people. Folks graduate school and then they're just thrown out on the streets. And it's like, how do I engage in this economy? How do I integrate myself into the world based upon what I learned? And there's a giant disconnect. So it sounds like the classes you took moved you closer to the success we were talking about at the beginning.
I mean, the educational system, as I said, was quite amazing. And I notice this now too. We have a lot of young people come to us as part of our Workaway projects that we do. Not sure if you're familiar with Workaway, which is, a worldwide organization. You post your project and then young people or people of all ages can apply to be part of it. And we've had a lot of younger people who went through 13 years of schooling. And it occurred to me that when I gave them a part of what we do here, I had, as a practical example, I give you, we had to take up some of the floorboards in rooms underneath the roof of our building and put insulation in. Now, to me, this is not a difficult or complicated task. But they had never done anything of that scale. And they were so excited to be given something like that. And of course, they were dirty as hell and dusty and sweaty under the roof. It's not insulated in the summertime. It was really hot.
Yeah.
But the sense of accomplishment and the sense of, my God, we can see, we were given a task and it took us a week to finish it, but here it is. It's on a large scale. To me, this was not normal and natural thing because I grew up with things like that.
Yeah.
But I realized how important it is. And I feel sad that, that school children or young people go through life without having the practical skills, which are just so important, not just for the skills, but also for the feeling I can accomplish something.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking yesterday. I've got a field manager. Her name's Kara, and she's amazing, and she's a little bit older than me, and she's cut from a similar cloth. And we were discussing that exact thing about how now it's like people. There's an instant satisfaction that's going on right now, and folks are to a degree they're afraid to get their hands dirty, and they're afraid to put themselves out there and not know. And she was talking about wanting to teach a class at the college called work ethic, and people can put themselves in all sorts of different situations and troubleshoot it. And it sounds like that's what you guys were a part of. And no, I have not heard of that program, but we will certainly put it in the show notes because it sounds amazing. I'll probably send my kids there. Sign up for that because, I love that. Well, Eastern Germany was not your forever home. When did you leave Eastern Germany and where did you go?
Well, I left East Germany as a young man. I was 22. I started the process at around about my 20th birthday. I could see that East Germany, and it was the height of the Cold War. The Russians, as well as American cruise missiles, were placed on either side of the border. We had acid rain. The nature was dying. It was all grey, and the political system didn't suit me at all. A state that would tell you how to live your life and what to accomplish in your life and who you are. It just didn't suit my nature. Perhaps many of my contemporaries would have disagreed with me because they felt secure, they felt looked after, but that wasn't what I was looking for. So the question came, well, East Germany was a communist state. We weren't allowed to travel. We didn't have passports or the ability to go abroad. So it was a 2-year process to migrate to Australia. And that in itself is a little story, but I don't want to take up all the time about that. I managed to leave East Germany and arrive in Australia in 1984, and literally with not a single penny in my pocket, I left East Germany. I wasn't allowed to take money, and so I had to start from scratch again and begin from the beginning in Australia.
Yeah. Of all the places in the world that you could have picked where you could have gone, why did you pick Australia?
Well, my prerequisite was a country far away from that hotspot of Europe.
Yeah.
A country with a clean environment, one of economic prospect, and one with a Western-style democracy, even though I hadn't experienced it myself. So we considered other countries. Canada, for instance, came to mind. But temperature-wise, that wouldn't have suited me too well.
Yeah.
So Australia was a country that seemed to fit it all. But of course, we didn't know a soul there. I had some years of English at school, but it wasn't something you would call perfect. It was difficult. But it's, anyway, I managed to get there and start a new life in Australia.
Were the Australians, the locals, were they welcoming to folks like you?
Well, I arrived in Western Australia also because it was recommended, and Western Australia is territory-wise around about 1/3 of the size of Europe, and it didn't even have 1 million people at the time living in Australia, in Western Australia. So it was a super isolated place. And it was like arriving in a big village. The crazy thing was, arriving there in the middle of the night at 2:00 at the airport. The city was pitch black. They still turned off all the street lights at 1:00. So I was very, very concerned arriving there. My first impressions were really quite wondrous after having left East Germany and flew to Rome first, even at night. So we saw all the lights there. Singapore, we arrived at night and all the lights there. But Australia was pitch black. So yeah. I was a bit surprised by that. But the Australians were fantastic there. Really, they said, anything goes. You don't need to have any papers. We don't want to see your papers. If you can do it, you'll prove it. If you can't do it, you will not succeed.
Yeah.
So it was fair go for anybody. It was fantastic.
I love that. That's the way it used to be here in Bozeman, Montana. It was fair go for anybody.
Yeah.
And then we got a little gentrified, and it's not fair go anymore here. A lot of rules and regulations, but it used to be outlaw here, which was founding tenet of my life in my late teens. You mentioned you showed up with no money,
mm-hmm.
and I believe that because I've been your age and I've been to places in South America, and I've literally had no money and been busted and broke. What did you do to, as we say in the States, turn a dime? How did you make ends meet?
Yeah, I was put into a migrant center, and the migrant centers were places for new arrivals into Australia. They provided you with accommodation, clean bed sheets, some toilet paper, and some food vouchers, but not much more. And then you had to see how you go. I found out a few weeks later that I was eligible for some unemployment benefits. So I applied for that. But more importantly for me was that they offered English courses. So I did English courses, and I very quickly did a driver's license, which in Western Australia, everything has to be done by car. So it's not.
Yeah.
And that was a bit funny because my German driver's license was valid still for 3 months. I failed the practical driving tests numerous times because I didn't understand the Australian slang and what the driving instructor wanted of me. I didn't understand what he wanted to do with the car. So I failed the driving test, but because my German license was still valid, I drove home after the failed driving test. So it was quite funny in that regard. And then I started to take on some odd jobs next to my studies, cleaning pools and raking leaves, that kind of migrant life that you start at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And you thought, gee, $4 an hour, how are you going to make a life here? This is really crazy. But, I thought it was more important to be able to communicate properly. And it was true. After a while finishing my courses, I was offered a job to look after a newly acquired estate of a German millionaire who had the same idea, although coming from the west part of Germany. He had all the money that he wanted, and he bought farms and with it also a private estate that he needed to have somebody he can trust to look after and make some building improvements at the same time while he was away for most of the year and still finishing his affairs in Germany. Mm-hmm. So I took that job because he paid me. I kept my unemployment benefits on top of it. And so I was able to repay my debts to my friends who had pre-financed my flight. And I was able to take my little dictionary book with me everywhere, go to the local hardware store, try to understand inches and feet and some new terms for certain things I'd never heard before. I did drawings on papers and to show them what I wanted. They didn't know. They hadn't seen any of those tools or equipment that I needed. But little by little, I worked my way into it. And when the guy I was working for came back from Germany, he offered me a permanent job. And so I did that for another few months just to, to top up my cash, so to speak.
Yeah. Fill the coffers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you doing restoration work? Implementing the skills?
No, not at that time. I was doing maintenance, but not restoration. Not just yet. That came a little later.
Yeah.
And my first job was to take on a historic wall on a main street. It was built in the 1800s. Nothing much is much older there than 1830 when first settlements occurred in Western Australia. But it was still completely traditionally built with limestone blocks and lime as mortar and so on. And while I was doing that, which was not a huge job, somebody who came past on the main road stopped and approached me, and he said, "Look, I'm an architect. I have a client. He desperately needs something done. Can you come with me and take a look at that job?" So I jumped into the car with him. We drove to the wealthiest part of the city, and he showed me a historic limestone rubble wall that was built to hold back a cliff or some deteriorating cliff. They had built a brand new huge villa below, and that historic wall, completely overgrown with ivy and other plants, had already a lean towards that property below. And it was the danger was that it would fall over and topple into the villa below and hurt people there. So he said nobody wants to touch it, and The additional problem was there was no access to a vehicle. It was just too steep. That side was too steep. And so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. This is a nice, meaty, big job. How can I do it? I've spoken to a friend who was an architect, and he went through the contract with me. The contract they had drawn up was 35 pages long. You could have built a skyscraper with that contract. Yeah. And it had all sorts of clauses in there. So like penalties for being late in the finishing and all sorts of conditions. So I went through them one by one, and I went back to them and said, look, okay, you've got penalties for being late. What about bonuses for being fast? Be thought on time. Okay, we can build that in. Then there was a rise and fall clause. If there was, nobody knew what was behind that wall, and what we would find there is it just a cliff, a continuation of the cliff, or is there all loose soil, or is whatever there is, nobody knew it. So I made sure that there were provisions that if there was additional work to be done, then that would be extra in bonuses and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there was still the problem to overcome the logistics of it, but also I had no money. I had no workers. I had no tools. I signed the contract, and then this was the great thing about Western Australia in those times. I went to the local hardware store, and I said to him, look, I've got this contract here. You can see it if you like. And this will require large quantities of lime and cement, and I need tools and so on and so forth. But I can't pay you right now. I will get a down payment. Can we work together? And he just looked at me from head to toe, one glance, and then he said, look, here on the counter is a book. Write your name here. Whatever you take, just write in the book. When the month is over, I'll send you a bill, and you have time for 30 days to pay it. With that, I took whatever I needed out of there. Barrows, shovels, pickaxes, whatever I needed, I was taking. And then I went to a hire company and did the same. I need conveyor belts. I need backhoes. I need all sorts of other equipment from you. Here's the contract. I'll get the down payment. How can we work together? Same thing. At the end of the month, we'll send you a bill. You have time, 30 days. Go ahead. Yeah. So, to cut this, that was my first project. Yeah.
Basically. Fearless is what I call that.
I finished it before the due date. I got bonuses, and after paying everybody and everything, I was able to buy a truck. I was able to buy all the equipment that I needed for myself. I was able to buy fridges and TVs and whatever I needed. Yeah. So I was set up, and I had a name in the business.
Yeah.
They said I never needed to advertise after that. I was known for taking on difficult jobs and working, like clockwork with them.
Yeah. Yeah. That is.
And in a small place like that, that is all that counts. So it was fantastic. I had a good start.
That is all that counts. And I think that rings true. I really think in this world, too. Just doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. I have a friend and mentor, and my friend's father, Tom Crittell is his name. And he said, the number one rule of business, Jeremy, just show up. We'll figure it out after that. And you showed up. And you figured it out. And it's just so simple. And be fearless, too, like you were. It's just a big way that I've lived my life.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do know that you weren't a contractor forever. I do know that you made a slight shift, and I do believe that you met a nice lady named Bronwyn that I read about on your website.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Talk to
My
us about
soulmate and the love of my life.
I love a little love story. When did you meet her? And give us the bullet points of how that happened.
Well, that was an easy day to remember. Australia celebrated the 200 years of discovery of Australia by Captain James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
And on that occasion, the world had come together with all the tall ships being the sailing ships that were traditionally coming around the globe 200 years ago, that kind of. So there was a huge fleet of that coming into the harbor of Western Australia. And in the harbor, I had a project. I was restoring the store for dangerous goods, which had huge big walls. They had all the kerosene and the gunpowder in there, and that needed restoration. And as those ships started to arrive, I went to the quay, and then I wanted to see it. And a mutual friend introduced us to each other, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Was it love at first sight?
It was, even though she had a little 2-year-old with her, and I didn't for one moment assume that she would be without a partner. But she walked with me back to the building site, and at that time I was living a little bit further away than I liked from Fremantle, the harbour town of Western Australia, and I asked her if she knew where I could find a rental accommodation in Fremantle, which gave her reason to give me her number.
Oh, nicely played, my man. Good work.
Yes. I called a few days later.
I guess the burning question is, did you really need a rental accommodation, or did you just play that card?
Both was true. Yes, and I wanted to be closer to her.
I like your style. Nicely played. Well, she worked in textiles, right?
Yeah. Bronwyn was a textile designer, and she taught color theory for adults.
Yeah.
I always say she has a minimum 10 million more color receptors in her eyes than anyone else I know. And she has created every one of our colors, and she knows them like her own babies. And she is able to look at the color and know exactly what amounts of different pigments are needed to recreate that color or adjust it.
Yeah.
So we are not doing anything here in a laboratory with white lab coats, and that doesn't work with lime wash paints anyway.
No.
But she's the one who created all the colors. And by the way, she is co-founder of Bauwerk Color, and she is the marketing director, and she is the one who creates all our communication with our customers, whereas I look after the technical side and the website functions, and that the products are being made, and that's all organized. But without her, nothing of our color would be as beautiful as it is.
Yeah. Like I said, when Ilka first told me about it when we were in France, and I looked at the site, the outward-facing site was so beautiful, and I was so taken by it, and I loved hearing the story about Bronwyn. When did you two start Bauwerk Color?
That was a few years later. I was still running the construction company, and she did her textiles.
Mm-hmm.
But then while she was doing her textile, she had an accident. And having broken all her bones in both feet, she spent time in bed and with a plaster, and she thought, I want to do something together with you, and I don't want to work with the quite toxic paints that we need to do the textiles. And I want to do it with natural. I want to do natural colors, and I had already started for the projects that I had under my care, which were historic projects that we were restoring. I had already started to make the paints for those. But with her involvement, we immediately began to collect more pigments from around the world, tested them for suitability in a high alkaline environment, as lime wash paints are, also with the extreme UV light of Western Australia for color fastness and so on and so forth. So we did start that together. And to launch it, we purchased a forgotten old bakery near the harbor, 2 minutes walk to the Indian Ocean to go swimming. It was a fantastic location for us, but it was surrounded by empty, dead shops and warehouses for the fishermen with their nets and frozen fish. Yet it was a beautiful beach, and I thought, well, both thought, well, this is crazy. All the people walk past here, they go to the beach, but nobody will come here to look for paint. So how can we get them into the shop? Well, let's start a cafe at the same time.
Might as well. Nothing else better to do. Let's just do this too now while we're at it. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was a historic property. We renovated it. We made it look stylish as Bronwyn would. and she created the menu, invited people to come and join us and run it for us. We had team staff in the end. And within a year, the cafe won the Australian Mietler Award, which is an award that is given to the top 100 eateries, restaurants in Australia. So we were gobsmacked.
Yeah.
For us, it was just a little beachside cafe that was there to make it easier for people to come into our paint shop. Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't feel subconscious coming into a shop where nobody else is in and then asking stupid questions. But it was a combination that worked.
Yeah.
The press was onto us, and a lot of people saw what we are doing. Of course, we made mistakes in the beginning. We had to make many adjustments to make it right. But one thing we were adamant, it would never be anything other than natural. And for that, we did something that, to my mind, is a logical step. We took a product, lime paint, that was widely used up until perhaps the 1950s. Everybody used it. And of course it was just a rough kind of thing. In a bucket, anyone had some other recipe for it with fish oil or with olive oil or with salt, all sorts of horrible combinations. And of course it worked because it was basically a antibacterial coating. If you had animal stall enclosures, you could do it. They used it in hospitals, right throughout the centuries. Mm-hmm. But it was never taken into a modern context, and it was never refined further than, put some in the bucket, put a bit of other stuff with it, and take a stick and stir it. Mm-hmm. So the technical properties were never refined, and this is something that I was interested in, how to make it purer, how to use the best. And coincidental, Western Australia has the purest of pure limestone, and we had still a traditional family operating lime kilns, wood-fired lime kilns, far outside the city. and they made the best lime putty you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And so we had the perfect raw material, and I was using it in the building and restoration process, and then we just extended that to the paint.
Yeah, Yugoslavian family, right? That's what your website said?
Yeah. And we made a little video about them on the very last burn that they did.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last one on the southern hemisphere that was doing it in that way, and we documented that. And of course, the city had grown so far out, nobody would have thought, 100 kilometers. The city could grow 100 kilometers. And now it's swallowed up by the city, and the land was becoming more and more valuable, and the fumes from the kilns became more and more a nuisance to the people around it, so it was shut down. Unfortunately.
Oh, sad. Sad, yeah. Price of progress. It's what happens. Progress swallows the good people. Ugh. Well, your work, it wasn't entirely in Australia. You did a little migration to the Middle East as well and started working on buildings there and selling your lime wash, right?
Correct. Well, as I mentioned, Western Australia was a very, very large country with very little population. And it's Perth, as the capital of Western Australia, is the most isolated capital in the world. And the nearest, what we could call city, is 2,000 kilometers away with nothing in between. And that is a smaller place than Perth. And, from Perth, you fly about 5 hours to reach Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
And we thought, well, if you have to sit in the plane, where else would we have a market? And we had inquiries from the Middle East about our paints, because we very early trying to reach other customers further away from us. We were very early investing into websites, and that was picked up by people in the Middle East. And they asked us some very odd questions and made some odd requests that we didn't fully understand in the context. Had to do also with English not being their first language. So they were, for instance, requesting our passports to send to them. And what they wanted was a copy of the passport, of course. But we thought, what? This must be a scam. No. But later on it was explained to us, no, if you want to visit, you need to prepare all that via these copies and so on. So then we decided, okay, the Middle East looks good. Let's exhibit in Dubai at the Big Five, which is the biggest building exhibition in the Middle East. Dubai was booming, and we set ourselves a goal, one project, exterior project of a high architectural merit that people can see, because we were aware that they have a very high emphasis on privacy. You couldn't just have somebody come into someone's home and see it. That wasn't possible. But exterior-wise, and we had, together with the West Australian government, they had sponsored, several companies to go over there. And we had a booth that was literally just 1.5 meters wide. And the idea was, how can we convey what we do within this space in a huge exhibition hall? Mm-hmm. And we did that with we took an iMac over there, and we had fantastic photos. So we just had a loop of showing them, and we were there. And lo and behold, our first customer arrived that we did a project with, and he was a minister for the Saudi government. And we realized that project with him. I flew several times to Saudi Arabia, showed the painters how to do it, and so on. So from there on, it snowballed. And he recommended me to his friends and to other people with huge projects. And so then we started to send entire container loads to Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And during the trips, I was always intrigued about this market, because Australia, when you look at the ratio between walls on a building to openings, windows and doors, so there's probably a ratio of 80% openings, glass and doors, to 20% walls. Whereas in the Middle East, you might have 10% openings. The rest is walls. They're not interested in the views. It's only dusty and hot out there. And they have huge walls around their properties. So like 4 meters high walls that go in around the entire property to satisfy their privacy needs. And the buildings are absolutely massive. So I thought, wow, this is great. But I wasn't, and here we come to the render part. I wasn't satisfied with the quality of the renders. Basically, they got some dirt from the desert, dumped it on the building site, threw some bags of cement next to it, and then they had some foreign workers from Pakistan, mostly, using shovels to shovel it back and forth. And to make it workable for them, they used so much cement that, of course, the entire facade was crazing.
Yeah.
And it was much too hard. It was much too brittle, in the sense that it would tend to fall off in big sheets if it hadn't bonded with the concrete blocks, cinder blocks, I think you call them in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, why are they using such horrible materials to do that, to make it hard for themselves? And I was then looking, well, can I find lime, builder's lime? Can I find better sands? And so gradually, project by project, I made recommendations of what sand to use, what ratios to mix it with. I introduced white cement to get away from the bluish gray finishes of that. And yeah, so I had a client who I forgot about, and I only remembered that I had an appointment with him maybe an hour before I had to go to the airport. And I said, oh my God, I'm sorry, I forgot you. Can we make the appointment now? Yes. I went there, I told him what to do. And the next time I came back, 2 months later, the entire project was done in that beautiful white render. Beautiful. He'd done a fantastic job with it. And that was the perfect surface for our paints to be painted into. So during that application of the paint, someone else tapped me on the shoulder, and it was his nephew. He was the biggest paint merchant in Saudi Arabia at the time, and said, look, don't tell people how to make these renders or the recipes. Let's build a factory for that. And I said to him, well, we can talk about it. Let's do that. And I gave it some thought. Not enough.
Yeah.
And foolishly, I said, okay, but if we do it, then we do it properly. We will produce renders that you can spray, that come as a pre-mix from the factory in silos to the site. We can pump it, dry to any storage that store in a high-rise building you like. And we do the full assessment of it and with proper quality control and so on and so forth. Yes, sure. Yes. So then, I spent 10 years building 3 factories and in Saudi Arabia, just so I have a nice surface to paint into.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dedicated
so
to perfection.
I know a thing or two about developing, renders.
Yeah.
And to produce them and to build and design the factories and, blending of aggregates. And we started with 3 or 4 products, and now the company has about 70 very, very highly specialized products that are all formulated for the very hot and difficult climatic conditions of the Middle East.
Arid climate, yeah. So you were there for 10 years in the Middle East, which is, it's just a decade, no big deal. When did you make the move back to Europe, early 2000s?
Well, it wasn't suddenly. First of all, also, of course, slowly we've had European interest. It started with someone from the UK, a young man who wanted to deal with our paints, and we set him up and got started there. Then a similar thing happened in the Netherlands, and that was creating interest. But Bronwyn and I, we took the kids several times to Europe, and we enjoyed a lot of traveling in Europe and holidays in France in particular. Germany, of course, because my relatives were there. That was after unification, of course. That was way after that. Mm-hmm. And we had the desire to have a home also in Germany. And it was again Bronwyn's hobby to find properties in Europe that we considered as holiday houses. And we looked in France, and we couldn't find anything that wasn't either renovated in a very ugly way, and where we'd say, oh God, we are paying for renovations that we have to take out, or if it wasn't a renovated property, it was not in a good location that we wanted, or it was too expensive. And then one day she extended the search to Germany on a very specialized website that deals with unusual properties. And we came across the property that we bought. And that was a manor house that used to be a fortified place from the 12th century. It was a water castle, basically. We still have the water here on half of the property. The other half was filled in. And it came with the largest plane tree on the mainland of Europe. It's absolutely massive, and we love this tree. And we always planted plane trees on all the properties that we built. So it was for us actually a trip to see this plane tree, and then we discovered the house and its super romantic setting. But it was only a shell. It was basically neglected for so long that it was in a very, very poor state of disrepair. Mm-hmm. Now that obviously didn't scare me, because I could see the bones were right, but it is a huge property, and we only used it for holidays. Yeah. So I thought, well, what is the worst thing that can happen? We do some improvements to it as we like, but we don't give ourselves the challenge to finish it. This has been here for generations and generations, and everybody has done something to it. So we'll do our best to it. And that's how we had a foothold in Europe. And it's here in Saxony, in former East Germany. And we absolutely love the place.
Yeah. And
it's really, really nice.
Yeah. Is that where you are right now, talking to us?
That's where I'm speaking to you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. And then when we get back, I kind of want to get into the nuts and bolts of Bauwerk and what it's like running this successful present-day company.
Sure. Look forward to it.
As you're likely well aware, our podcast series of Baby Brand is in its infancy. We promote these stories because there is a definite need to spread information about the sacred art form of plaster. It is no secret that as our world turns at its rapid pace, we're slowly losing techniques and methods. The information in this broadcast is an attempt at the preservation and conservation of sacred techniques and sage wisdom from the industry's finest. We offer financial compensation for all of our guests and are seeking advertising funds for operational costs. Do you have a product or service that is in line with our content? Do you want to advertise it to a wider audience? Give us a shout on our socials and we'll let you know how to get on board. And not to worry, we won't bother you with lots of show-stopping advertisements. We are so thrilled to share stories of designer disasters, contractor conundrums, or anything else that weaves its work through our plaster world. Do you have a plaster-related topic you'd like us to discuss? Or a guest you're dying to learn from? Send us a DM on Instagram at New Age Artisans or an email to hello@newageartisans.com. We can't wait to hear from you. Now back to the show.
Hey team, welcome back. We're back here with Andreas, and first part of the show, we were talking about the foundation that built Bauwerk in Eastern and Western Germany and migration to Australia and then to the Middle East for just a quick little decade, a little life chapter there, having a render company and a sprayable painting company. And now we're back in Germany, where Andreas is mostly based out of. So you're still based out of Australia a little bit too, right?
Yes, we have both places still where we started, and of course here in Germany too. We were able to purchase all the neighboring properties that had been cut up during the time the Russians were here, and so gradually we were putting back together the old estate, and with it came two massive barns, and we have almost finished restoring them, but put all the business activities into there, except for the marketing, which is in the main house here. Mm-hmm. And so it's worked out fantastic for us because our business main activity of the business has now shifted to Germany, Europe.
Yeah, you have distributors, right, in all around Europe, right?
We don't call them distributors because we don't work on a business model where we ship wholesale and then have a distributor who sells it to shops and then they sell it to the retail people. Mm-hmm. We have representatives in countries in some locations, and they are the main representatives for us, where we send customer inquiries to that are country specific for them. Mm-hmm. Actually, what we managed to do is we are manufacturer and the distributor through our online stores, and we managed very early on to sell our paints ready-made in liquid form all over the world, because they have no fumes or toxins or any hazardous materials in them. Mm-hmm. We can airship them. So to you folks in the US, we have a fantastic deal with DHL Express.
Yep.
They come every day here with their truck and they transport it to the biggest European DHL Express hub, an hour and a half from us, in Leipzig. And from there, they load the planes directly from 9 o'clock at night. They have about 100 planes come to that hub from all over the world. And within an hour and a half, all of these planes are loaded again. And then they fly back to Connecticut. And from there, it gets distributed to anywhere in the US or North America and Canada, Mexico. So you could order today, and at the latest, you'll have it on Monday. Today is Wednesday that we speak with each other. So mm-hmm. we can deliver almost as fast as anyone who is inside the US.
I might take you up on that offer. I might push a button just to see.
Go ahead.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to challenge you, my friend. So it's interesting. We, a lot of our waxes that we get, is from, here's my German accent, Kreuzit wax, Punic wax. Are you familiar with that?
Not really. No.
Yeah. And that comes from Germany as well. And, I can't believe how fast it shipped. I mean, we'll order 100, 800 gram units for a few $1,000s. And sometimes within 7 days, it's at my front door, which is wild. So,
yeah, we can have orders from, say, if an architect in New York orders with us by, say, 2:00 our time, which would be maybe in the morning. No. It's roughly maybe 8 or 9 o'clock their time.
Mm-hmm.
We can have whatever they need on their desk by 12:00 New York time the next day.
Wow. It's like Amazon Prime here.
Possible.
Yeah. That's wild. Do you have variable pricing? And I'm just like firing off questions because I'm so interested in this. Do you have variable pricing in your shipping?
The differences is by weight, not so much, because there's a flat rate. US has a flat rate for DHL Express. It doesn't matter whether you ship it to New York or to Vancouver. It's the same price if it's the same weight. So, it's instantly calculated as you put your stuff into the shopping cart. The price is already there.
Yeah. Now, here in Montana, again, just firing off questions because I'm interested. We, some of the things get shipped, and I ordered this large acoustic plaster that we had to install, and we had to have it in a temperature regulated vehicle, so we had to pay a lot of money. Is your material allowed to freeze?
To freeze?
Yeah.
It won't freeze if we ship it by air because it's so fast at your door that it won't have time to freeze.
Doesn't have time to freeze. That's a good answer. I like that. But let's just say it did freeze. What would happen?
No, the paint can freeze. It doesn't matter. You can pour it and you can stir it up again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not affected by cold or hot. But of course, it is possible that the bucket that is delivered in it becomes brittle with colder temperatures.
Yeah.
And that might be the reason why your paint is spoiled. Not so much because the paint has turned to ice.
Sure. Do you think that your main market is here in the States, or is it mostly throughout Europe and the Middle East?
No, our main market is the UK.
The UK.
They take the absolute bulk of our paints, but the US has come. We only opened the US market about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whereas the UK market was already served for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And the US is catching up super fast. It's the fastest growing market for us.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we mostly communicate in English. Our Instagram accounts and all the social media is in English. But we've managed last year to also introduce Spanish as a language for our websites, because also Spain, the Spanish-speaking communities is crazy for what we do.
Yep.
And I figured that perhaps in the US, a lot of the painters come from Spanish-speaking background.
Mm-hmm.
And so we offered the Spanish language also for the US.
Yeah. Amazing.
But also, of course, because we can ship to countries in South America.
I love that. Worldwide domination, slowly. And it's not even domination. Like, you're not even really trying. You're just doing it. It's happening. And I'm going to promote the heck out of it here.
It's really, I think apart from the product and what the product does, give you color on the wall. What I find so amazing about the paint, and we weren't aware of it in the beginning, the beauty and the look of it. was oftentimes perceived as being something applied by a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew how to do it. You know, the color variation, that it's not a one solid color of just one shade. People thought maybe you're mixing colors, overlay them. They didn't understand that this comes by interacting with the background of what you painted on and how the light hits it and so on. So what we had to first address was the notion it's difficult to apply, or you need somebody with 5 years training in Venice before you can even have it in your home. The fact that it can be done by a teenager who has never held a brush in her hand, had to be conveyed somehow. And social media has been very, very good. Bronwyn was a very early adopter of Instagram due to the visuals that you can bring across. And what we learned in this process was that, again, for people who do it themselves, this is probably their biggest art project they ever undertaken. Taken a wall, 10 feet high and whatever length. And now they have to put a brush to that. And whatever movements they do will still be seen afterwards. Mm-hmm. And the process is a little daunting because the paint, when you apply it, is transparent.
Yeah.
So you're not having the same sense as with a conventional paint that you put it on and you see the color immediately. The color develops as the paint reacts with carbon dioxide of the atmosphere and it becomes opaque. So first of all, this is a daunting process. You don't see exactly what you're doing, but you have to trust the process. And yes, the first coat looks pretty wild, and only with the second coat you have this lovely velvety feeling of everything. And what we found in this process is it's immensely empowering. People taking to decorating their own home and creating something that is so unique because it's made by their hand. It's not interchangeable. It is really something they created. Once they've done it, once they've gone over the fear and terror of this process, it is actually so freeing and so enjoyable that their desire to share that finish with the world, with their neighbors, with their friends, has been the catalyst for our growth. Mm-hmm. They shared via the social media, and particularly so during COVID. You can imagine people sitting at home and staring at the four walls and I've got nothing to do, I'm bored. And they start to scroll on their Instagram accounts for inspiration or something. And then they say, oh my God, this is something. And they deliver it to my home.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to try that. Okay. And here's somebody who's done it and they show me how they did it. Well, if they can do it, I can do it too. So this is something that is, this is another dimension of a product that we weren't creating. We just took this humble medium, lime, like an alchemist, the pigments from the earth. It is truly alchemy, and you make it into something much more valuable. Valuable in the sense that it is a thing of beauty, a thing that you enjoy.
Yeah. Well, and it's if the homeowner is the one that's doing it, I mean, it's theirs. It's their articulation on the wall, and
that's the most powerful part of it.
Yeah.
And, but even if you have it done, if you, for instance, you're not able to do it for whatever, you don't wish to do it, you come into the room and there's something else happening. You can pick any similar shade with a conventional paint, but you will not have the same feeling. Mm-hmm. And this emotional interaction with something that is, it's almost indescribable, and can't put your finger on it. But this little mystique and this little, emotional interaction with something is so subtle and yet so powerful.
Yeah, it's like, I talk about, we're plaster manufacturers as well and installers, and
of course,
I talk a lot about, when you walk in and you're just overcome with kind of this poignant emotion, and it's almost as if the rooms and the walls, they're just kind of like winking at you, just a little bit, just a little wink. What do you think? Because here, there's a myriad of paint companies here and lime wash companies and companies saying that they're natural and people jumping on the green bandwagon. Your company really spoke to me, and it spoke to me through the marketing on the second I saw it. I was very taken by it. What do you think separates your company from a competitor that's made here in the States or in Europe?
I don't know, to be honest, because we never focus on what other people do. We only want to make ours the best as possible, that is possible, and we can't help but improve what we do all the time. We listen to our customers, we get their feedback, we try to accommodate whatever they desire, as long as it's not something that the lime wash paint is not naturally doing by itself. So for me, the honesty of the material will never be watered down. We're not trying to force it to do something that it's not naturally made for.
Yeah.
And this constant improving, and this happens also behind the scenes. This is our production process, our fulfillment process, customer inquiries, website improvements, all those things. It's a culmination. And of course, we have a fantastic team. And we have a very international team. We have, our graphic designers coming from the UK. We have our technical team for the website development that comes from Melbourne. We have our color consultant that we have for the online consultancies is coming from Milan. We draw from so many talents that put their heart into it as well. And not forgetting the people here who do the work, packaging it up and making sure everything is neat and nice. And it's also what is important for us is, when the product arrives, how does it arrive? Our packaging, we take care of that it's not full of plastics. We developed our own things. We make sure it's in containers that have a very high post-consumer recycled content in it, and are recyclable by themselves. I think all of that comes into it. So it's not just something that I created or only Bronwyn or only the two of us. We also have two of our sons working in the business, and they do take care, and everyone is passionate about it. And so I guess a little bit of that comes into it, and we don't have a chemist creating the colors. This is what you get when you go to a building store, and they go up and down the graduations with tints.
Yeah.
The tints that you find in the building markets.
Yeah.
They're made to be convenient, but the convenience is bought with a lot of chemicals that we would never want to have our customers or ourselves or our employees be exposed to.
Yeah.
So we only use powder pigments, and the powder pigments are super similar, if not the same, as for the cosmetics industry and for fine arts. So, whatever goes into a lipstick also goes into our paint. Whatever goes into a rouge also goes into our paint. And that desire to stay so close to nature is perhaps, I can only assume, is perhaps also what people see and, experience when they come in contact with our product.
Yeah. And it seems to me, I'm just listening, and I'm learning a lot, by the way. I'm just eagerly got my ear on this one for sure. It's almost like you're selling it to yourself. It's kind of what I'm hearing. If you wouldn't buy it, why should someone else buy it? And nothing. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever thought about it like that, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. That it.
I can only sell what I believe in.
Yeah.
What I believe from my heart and with my love, the love that we have for it. It's not a commercial exercise first up. It's an exercise of love and beauty.
Yeah.
That it is commercially successful is a result of the diligent work that everybody has put towards it. Mm-hmm. Naturally, of course, it is. Yeah. If it's well presented, if it's well packaged, if it's well communicated, it is successful.
Yeah.
And we've tailored our growth also always to our own abilities, to our own development stages, and to our own financial resources. We don't have financial backers. We never took investors. Mm-hmm. We don't have bank debts.
Yep.
We don't take loans. We finance everything out of that. And the sustainable principle of sustainability that we want to achieve is not just, oh, the product is sustainable. Oh, we use only 100% eco energy. No, it's also what sustains us financially. So we are not putting ourselves under pressure to satisfy investors who extract the last cent out of something to the detriment of the quality. We don't. We're not interested in that.
Yeah.
We had times, particularly during COVID, where we actually had to artificially slow down the orders. So we could grow 100% every year without taking loans, without letting go of our customer care, so that we were able to keep up with everything and not open the floodgates. We don't want that because, customers will not be happy if they have to wait too long, if they can't get someone on the phone. This is also important to us. You can still call us. Okay, from the US, this is still, admittingly, this is our Achilles heel. We have nobody who takes the calls after our office closes. But we're working on that, and that will come next.
Yeah.
We will be able to do that.
I'll take their calls. You send them to me. I'll take care of you. Because I'm just listening to you, and I believed in it before. I really did. From the moment I saw the website and the moment I saw the videos, I believed in it, which is why I had the courage to reach out to you to say, this gentleman on social media with hundreds of thousands of followers, I'm just going to just throw it out there and see if he'd be interested in talking to me. And I believed in it before, and I wholeheartedly believe in it now after listening to you talk. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. We only speak about how we go about our life every day.
Yeah.
So, and I believe if you apply similar principles and diligence to your activities, and it doesn't matter what you do, you have to be successful. And success defined is not a meteoric rise to more turnover. I don't want to be the biggest paint company. I don't want to be the cheapest paint company. I want to be a sustainable, profitable company. Something I can share with the world. And it is possible to do it with patience and step by step. You can build up a business, no matter what it is. And that's perhaps a good lesson to look back after all those years. We started with absolutely zilch, with nothing, except our skills and our inquisity and into how would that work? What can we do here? With whom can we consult? And that's just the natural product out of it.
Yeah. And it goes back to showing up in Australia with nothing and
Yes.
Keeping your word.
As well.
Yeah. Doing what you said you were going to do, and, climbing another rung up the ladder slowly, which is very key. I tell my kids all the time, listen, guys, life's a work in progress, and no one really cares how it starts. Everyone cares how it ends. Just take your time and go through the finish line correctly.
Life's giving you opportunities throughout your life. It's a matter of taking them. It's a matter of developing them further, evaluating. But you have to stay true to yourself in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you need health and you need a good family environment. All of that is also part of sustainability. You're not focusing 100% every day on the business. Sure, we don't mind to work 7 days a week, and we don't mind to put in 12 or 14 hours, but we also put the same equal effort into the family. Make sure we have time for the wider family, for our community, for our business colleagues. All of that is also part of sustainability. You cannot just focus on the business alone.
Yeah.
You might be successful on paper and on your book data for your business, but you might find yourself alone. Your children might not talk with you anymore, and your wife or your partner might run away because you're just not available anymore.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of internal conversations myself over the past few months of everything that we're involving ourselves in, and how hard I'm working and how hard everyone else around me is working. And I mean, it's beyond a full-time job. And I just think all the time, wow, this is not sustainable at this juncture right now. But I do know that when I get out of this particular tunnel that I'm in at this juncture, there is blue sky, and I will breathe, and I will be comfortable, and I will be living what I consider to be a more sustainable life. But right now I'm in the crux, and hearing you talk really makes me want to aspire to that. So thank you for the inspiration on that, for sure.
Jeremy, you're 44 years old. When we were 44 years old, Bauwerk was only 4 years old.
Yeah.
So we started at 40. We had our children early, admittingly, and we were 40 years old, and they were almost out of the house. And we thought, let's commit 20 years to this venture, the next 20 years. That's what Brom and I committed to. And when we were 60, we said, wow, where have we come? Where are we at? Do we still enjoy it? Are we still excited to get up every morning and work on it? And we said, yes. Well, let's do another 20 years.
Yeah.
See where we get to.
Yeah, it's like marital vows with your business. I like that. I like that a lot.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's a nice byproduct. Of course, we had to learn to work together. When you're together 24/7 in the business and then in your private life, you have to learn that your partner is your colleague at work. You talk in a certain way with them, and when you get upset with each other, you have to say, hang on, I'm at work. It's not a personal thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
So there are certain strategies, perhaps not talked about enough when partners work together, what you can do to make this work for yourself. And that is part of success. We go into a phase in our life where we don't see ourselves as being made redundant. We don't see ourselves as being irrelevant. We don't see ourselves as retirees. Now, we have so much interaction with all kind of generations, with all sorts of countries and people, and it's wonderful. This is part of business, and that's also something that keeps us interested in each other and making these journeys together in our life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I call her my soulmate.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to do. And this dedication of your life to a person as well as to a mission, in our case, making the most beautiful lime wash paint in the world. That's what we want to do. And we want to be the company that you go to if you need any information about lime wash paint.
Mm-hmm.
So the go-to place. That's what we're working on. And to share this with others.
What do you think, with all of the projects that have been done over the history of Bauwerk, what is the craziest project you've ever seen done with your paints?
Well, certainly some of them are in the Middle East. We have a royal customer that we've been doing projects for several years now on the Red Sea. And that is unfortunately not something we can share because we are not allowed to take photos there. But it is certainly something that is super interesting. But also our own project here at home, even though if you were to visit us, you would see that we can't bring ourselves to paint quite a number of walls that we have here because the history is just too deep. But where we've done it, it is something else. And so we've just completed, or shortly before our bathroom. We've always put the business somewhat front, but after 16 years, again, we have a bathroom with a bath, and it's a vaulted ceiling in a room that is like 250 square feet, and it's a cathedral for us to be in there, and that is somewhat crazy. But that's also the treat that we created for ourselves by taking on a project like that. A house with 20 rooms and more than 70 windows. It is a constant building site, but also our personal satisfaction, to have the privilege to live in a place like that.
Yeah. So you're in your 60s. You're in your next chapter of your next 20 years. What do you think the future holds for Bauwerk over the next 20 years? And then what do you think the future holds for this beautiful home/castle that you live in?
Well, I have the desire to create a legacy. There's a lot of friends around me that are going into retirement now. They just think about how they can spend the money that they have, however much or little it is. Mm-hmm. They're not interested to leave much behind. As I said, the kids can do their own stuff. Our children are involved in the business. I feel that looking at the history, and I've always had, for me, the communication through old buildings is very strong. When I see what was left behind from the previous centuries here in Europe, and certainly where I live, there's always been people who have created something for generations to last and to feel inspired by. And that's what we are trying to do here. I want to leave a place that is certainly better than what we found it. That's already been achieved, but even more so. When we took on the place, I never thought I'd be able to finish it, but we're in a phase where we've worked for 2 decades for the business, and now it's the business working for us. So that means we do have money to spend, and we invested in making this place a really beautiful place. Not in a sense of luxury, but in a sense where it interacts with the nature. We have about 5 hectares of land around it, including that lake and an old orchard, and it is adjacent to a bird sanctuary. It's a national monument. The tree that we have is one of the 100 most important trees in Germany.
That's a beautiful
and
tree.
To maintain and,
on your website
and bring it back to life, to what it can be, and to preserve the nature and leave this behind for the next generation in the best possible way. That is something that is deeply satisfying. And so that's beside the business. Of course, we hope that the business will continue. It probably will grow to a point where we are not the right people to lead it anymore as founders and people imagining things and driving it into on so many levels. I think there will come a point when people are more on the managerial side, need to continue with it process-wise, and we see opportunities on so many levels, including setting up manufacturing in the US. But there will come a point when it is perhaps at the end of the next 20 years, time to give it over to other people, certainly our children before that. But, so this is something we consider, how we make that transition possible and what we will leave behind, for the next generations to come.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, I'm 44. I'd like to be around for another, I'd say 40 years. Sounds good. Another 20 and see what happens in the second chapter. So I look forward to watching the growth of Bauwerk, and I look forward to staying in communication with you because, as I mentioned earlier, I was taken by the website, and now after this conversation, I'm even more invested in your process and your product. And thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're a very busy man, and you set aside time to talk to us and the plaster community. And thanks so much for sharing your beauty with the world.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of it with you guys. And of course, I'm super interested also what you are doing. And I hope that my travels take me to Montana. And I hope that we can sit together and, share and enjoy a yarn over some of the plaster parts as well.
Yeah.
In any case, it was good fun talking with you, and thanks for reaching out. And to all of you, a very good day.
Very good day. Thank you, sir. Please join us next as we head back east, stateside, to my homeland of Connecticut for a fun reunion with one of my oldest and best friends, Mr. Michael Cretella. Mike, now a contract lawyer, and I grew up skiing, playing soccer, and getting in trouble together, and couldn't call it quits after high school, so we continued to live together in Montana for several years. Together, we learned valuable life lessons while skiing powder, drinking beer, and painting houses. As we approached our mid-20s, we simultaneously made pivotal life changes. I, seeking a more creative outlet, switched from paint to plaster, and Mike moved back home to attend law school. Almost 20 years later, and widely more mature, both of us remain steadfast in our professions. Make sure to tune in as we talk childhood memories, late teenage shenanigans, and the necessity of a good legal contract. Mike is my go-to source for legal questions, and he's here to help all of you, listening contractors, ensure you're equipped with the necessary preliminary knowledge to draft solid contracts so you can get paid and continue your careers. Until next time, cheers!